A note before we begin. Music licensing means some of Lewis' songs cannot be played here on YouTube. What you'll see instead is Lewis hearing them. And I'll tell you now, he sang, he bounced, and he lit up the room. I've never had a guest respond to music quite like this. Keep your eyes on Lewis. For the full music experience, find this episode on Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to Crescendo Conversations, where leaders step out of performance and into presence, guided by the music that shaped who they are. I'm Zen, and through Crescendo with Zen, I curate listening-led conversations that invite imperfection, freedom, and purpose. Today's guest carries responsibility at a global scale. His work moves across cultures, jurisdictions, and boardrooms, requiring judgment under pressure and decisions that have real consequences. It's the kind of leadership that really makes noise, but shapes outcomes in profound ways. Beyond that work, he is a father, a husband, a musician of many instruments, a sportsman, and lover of heavy metal music. His sense of identity doesn't follow a single line. Where he comes from and how he arrived here might require an entire whiteboard. Many people would simply call him a lawyer, or know him as a global senior partner and the head of energy sector at Herbert Smith Freehills Kramer. Today, though, we're stepping away from titles to meet the human being behind them. I'm delighted to welcome Lewis McDonald.
Hi, Lewis.
Hi, Zen. How are you doing?
Great to have you on the program, and this is very early for you.
Yeah, it's just after 8 over here in London, but it's fine with me. I don't mind getting up early.
I'm so excited to have you on the program, not only because a lot of our listeners can really relate to the high-stake, high-pressure jobs and responsibilities you do and you carry, but also I know you're a very capable musician and a lover of music yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of blocked actually during your introductions then, the way you've described what I do and what I'm responsible for. But it's true what you were saying in terms of, I suppose, my travels around the world. Maybe the difficulty in pinning me down as a human being, but also then the responsibility that I carry. And so it's very, very generous of you. But yeah, I mean, I guess my job's a big part of my life. My family's a big part of my life, and music is huge and it's always been there, threaded through every aspect of my life for as long as I can remember as a kid, through to the present day. I think I mentioned to you in the prep, I'm actually going to a concert tonight. I regularly attend live music events, absolutely love them. And it's just, like I say, it's always been there for me all the way.
I think my introduction was only a snippet of what you do and who you are, and I'm excited through this program today. Hopefully we'll get to know you a bit more and in a more nuanced way. So, Lewis, I think I invited you to choose a piece that connects you to your early life and a sense of home. And would you share with us what's the special piece of music you chose for us?
Yeah, I'm not sure how special it is, but I chose "Living on a Prayer" by Bon Jovi, which I know is a very, very popular song around the world. I know that because, as you mentioned, I have been a DJ and I have I do perform here and there. And if you pull out "Living on a Prayer," most people in the world, actually, no matter where you are, they know the chorus. You know, oh, we're halfway there. You know, oh, we're living on a prayer. It's sung at sporting matches when you get to a halfway point in the game. It's sung late at night at at pubs and clubs all over the world, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful chorus. But I suppose the reason I've chosen it is because, I remember when that song came out. It was on the album Slippery When Wet, I think, by Bon Jovi, and I was a kid. And I grew up in New Zealand, and not just New Zealand, but Dunedin in New Zealand, so right at the bottom of the South Island. So you could say we were sort of aware of things going on around the world, but we weren't really able to participate in those things too much. Like bands, I don't think too many bands would go to Dunedin. I mean, I know they did, but they wouldn't go. And I was just a kid, and somebody brought this cassette tape into school. I went to a school, Mornington Primary School. I think it's 85, 86, something like that. So I'm like 8 or 9 years old. And somebody puts this tape in and closes the lid. Come on, listen to this. Everyone, we've got the little headphones on, or big cans actually around our ears. And this is an audio system that's supposed to be used for like really serious educational things. So this kid probably wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, but put it on. We'll put the headphones on, and just that album, the music, the heaviness of that music, which at the time was pretty heavy, it just blew my mind. And I think the guitars, the voice, the sort of the feeling of freedom that evokes in you is just really something that's always stuck with me. And it's still a song that I will play that song live. I can't play it very well, and I play it on the acoustic, but basically everyone will sing along to it. And so you start playing it, and then everyone will just join in, basically, whoever's in the crowd. So it's a very cool song. And it was kind of a gateway, I think, to my slightly heavier musical pursuits as time went on. That's the song. That's why I chose it. Halfway there, living on a prayer, Bon Jovi.
I can imagine a young boy listening to a completely new genre at school in front of his friends, and that sense of freedom you described. You've got a very cinematic way of describing your experiences and memory. That's fantastic. Tell us about how freedom felt to a young boy.
Oh, I think I was very lucky as a kid because, you think about Dunedin, you think about New Zealand, think about the South Island of New Zealand, you think about Lord of the Rings kind of countryside, the mountains, the greenery, everything else. It's just raining all the time. There's always a real strong connection with nature. So you've always got this feeling of being free and actually away from the rest of the world. The rest of the world's happening somewhere else, or life is elsewhere, if you like. There in the South Island, you've always got this feeling. So I guess it's something I always enjoyed, something I always looked for. My dad had this big record collection, all vinyl back then. So, 12-inch vinyl, 7-inch vinyl, full albums, Eric Clapton, Pink Floyd, whatever. And I just remember, always listening to his music. And I've got a brother and a sister, we would just jump around, dance around. In fact, sometimes we jumped so much the record would jump and skip and probably scratch, and my dad would hate that. But we just always had this, this idea that freedom was available to you, like complete freedom as well. Just running around, enjoying ourselves as kids. And so I'm very familiar with that feeling of being very free. I know how lucky I am, by the way, to have that feeling. I know in some parts of the world and in some cultures it's much more difficult to be able to express in that way. But I was very fortunate that I was able to tap into that on a regular basis as a kid. And so, go back to that song, the Bon Jovi song, the way you can see those artists who are writing music like that, Bon Jovi. I remember Twisted Sister, We're Not Going to Take It, that kind of stuff. And this is where metal comes in as well. That's just a total liberation, total freedom, almost like total absence of responsibility, just captured in that kind of music. And I think that's what that music does. It evokes that in you. It reminds you of a time when that was how you lived your life, when that was how you were. And I think that's why people get such a huge sense of enjoyment out of it, and why it can transport you to that place momentarily, at least, until you got to go back to your day job. So yeah, that's what it does for me.
I hear that when you were a young boy, listening to that music meant freedom to you. You felt free, you saw freedom, you could smell freedom, you are in freedom. And then later in life, that's the music you return to, and the music reminds you how freedom felt to you.
That's right. That's right. And like for me, like, you know, I got into like more, I'd say heavier music as time progressed, because I think it's just what happens. You just have a bit of it and you get used to Bon Jovi. Then you need Guns N' Roses, and then you need Metallica, and then you need something else. And you just keep going and going right to the end. And it does have a limit, I think, this stuff. But
it's like eating chili, right? The sky is the limit.
It's like anything. You just get used to it. You need more, you need more, you need more. But music, I think, is similar. Heavy music is like that, I think. And then eventually you sort of settle. I think, okay, I've been to the ends now, you know, up, down, left, right, and I settle on this. But even, you know, if I go to a concert now, you know, I remember like even a year ago going to like an Iron Maiden cover band at one of my local places in St Albans, and you just go see that, you watch the guys on stage, even if it's not the real thing, it just gives you that sense, it gives you that feeling, and you can transport yourself back to that time when you were a teenager. And that's what it does. That's the beauty of music, the way it connects different parts of your brain, different memories, if you like, are associated with this music. And so all it takes is one song and you're there again, or one live performance, and you have that feeling again.
Listening to you talking about it and also watching you talking about it, I can see so much joy and vivid memory, but also freedom in the way how you describe it. I know the answers, but I'd love to invite you to talk about that. Lewis lives in London now, and then you had a young childhood in New Zealand. Is that your entire identity?
Oh, I don't know, not at all. I mean, if you want a bit more, I mean, just to, without going into too much detail, I was born in Scotland, so Scottish parents. My parents emigrated to New Zealand when I was very young, because my dad had an opportunity he was a professional football player, soccer. He had a chance to play in New Zealand, so he took it. And mum and dad moved to the other side of the world, basically, from Dundee, Scotland, to Dunedin, New Zealand. So I spent the first 10 years of my life in New Zealand, in Dunedin, but then they moved back to Scotland. But it was too hard to adjust back to that life, having had that freedom in New Zealand, in Dunedin. And so ultimately we ended up in Perth, Australia. Just a lot of people from New Zealand moving to Australia at that time, and mum and dad had friends there, etc. So we ended up moving there actually when I was 10 years old. And so I was in Perth from the age of 10 to 27. You know, went to UWA, University of Western Australia, studied law, studied science. You know, met my now wife, Yana. We got together when we were at university, and then, you know, moved to London 21 years ago from Perth, and was here in London for a few years before getting the opportunity to go out to Asia through my wife's work, you know, as a scientist at University College London. Actually studies pandemics and in the field of epidemiology. Got a chance to go out to Hong Kong when avian bird flu was a thing back in 2008. And we came back to London after being in Hong Kong for a few months. And then ultimately that was when Asia was really booming. And then I was asked if I could basically help the firm build up in Southeast Asia. So we moved to Singapore, 2008. We were there for about 4.5 years, then got the chance, or was asked to move to Korea. Moved to Korea, lived in Seoul between 2013, 2017. And got the chance to live in Japan, lived in Japan between 2017 and 2019, and then ultimately came back to London in this global role. And so those places where we've lived, I think they all influence you in different ways. It's interesting now, when you look back on your life, you know, at this point in your life, and I'm 48 now, and when I look back on it, I find all these chapters in my life. There's the New Zealand chapter, there's the Australia chapter, there's obviously London before, and then there's Singapore, there's Korea, there's Japan, and then there's London again. And the way I think the brain works is that it keeps all those things in chapters, and it almost feels like you've lived multiple lives. So I guess you get defined by that in a way, but you can then relate in many different ways to many different types of people. So I think it's probably a bit hard to pin me down in a way, but I feel very fortunate to have had those experiences in my life, and to have been someone that's been able to live in these different places and have these experiences.
I love that you compared your adventures experiences to chapters. So if they're chapters for your very young 48 years of life, you've got a very thick book already. Let's stay in the earlier chapters for now for the first song. Shall we listen to the song?
It's got a really nice build-up, this song, with the keyboards. It's quite ethereal. Yeah. Amazing song.
Music really joyful just to listen to that together. It's good fun. And I love that Bon Jovi is also such a great storyteller. And also it's such a working class song, isn't it?
Oh, totally. Totally. Everyone can relate to it. When that song comes on, it just does something in an environment. People respond to it in a massive way. When I was living in Singapore, I don't know how well you know Singapore, Boat Quay, Clark Quay, all these lovely going out areas and all that. And many of the pubs have bands playing. It's usually people from the Philippines. They're just the most amazing cover musicians almost in the world. And in my observation, having lived in many different places and gone to lots of different bars and all that. And if you go up to them and you say, could you play a Bon Jovi song? Almost inevitably they'll say, absolutely. And then it'll be this song. And I often make the request, is it okay if I join you on the stage and sing? And 1 out of 2 times they say, sure. And then it's just a crazy, crazy song. So I've had a lot of good times with that particular song.
Such a joy talking about music and your life with you. I can just imagine you and your family. And I wonder who was the paparazzi taking videos of you singing with a cover band along the riverside of Singapore.
I don't think there's any recorded footage. I think that's just one for the people who were there, for better or for worse. That's that really. Thankfully, not too much footage exists of these types of things.
That also offers us a beautiful and smooth segue to the second song. And do you want to tell us about the second song and why you chose it? What's it about?
Yeah, I think the second song is Private Universe by Crowded House. It's an incredible song, and it's particularly nice when Neil Finn plays it acoustic. I think that it's a beautiful recording anyway on the album, but when it's acoustic, it's just much more personal in that way. I chose it because I mentioned all the movement around the world that I've had. When you move like the way I've described, I've got a brother and a sister, mum and dad, and that's a very small family unit of 5. And that family unit has always been together. If you think about Dunedin, Perth, you're away from everybody else, and so you've obviously you then form bonds with other families. My wife's situation was similar because her family basically left Czechoslovakia at a time when you weren't allowed to in 1984. And my wife, her brother, her mum, her dad left, went to Sydney, and ultimately to Perth, and so that's how I met Jana, because we're both in Perth together. But again, that was a small family unit, 4 people. The rest of the families in Czechoslovakia, and for a period there was they had no communication with each other because of the situation with communism, etc. You weren't allowed to leave these countries. Then eventually, of course, reconnected, reattached, but still away. And then I suppose both Jana and myself coming together, I suppose we had that mentality as well, that actually we can be a strong unit. We face the world together, and the private universe is really that universe between the two of us. And I think that's what he's writing about in the song, but I don't know. With Neil Finn songs, you're never really that sure what he's talking about. It's almost like modern art. It's just these words, these beautiful phrases, and then it evokes something in you. And then I think he's always said, well, whatever it evokes in you, that is the meaning of the song. It is not what I say it means, it's what you think it means. And so for me, that just represents the relationship I have with my wife, and I suppose the way we face the world. And it's a song I've always liked it, and I've always played it. And in fact, it's the song we played at our engagement party. It'll always be special. Whenever I hear the song, it just makes me think about all these things, and the way you can form that bond, that unit, and together you're so strong, and you can do anything when you have that strong unit. You can face anything, go anywhere, do anything.
That sounds powerful, Louis. It sounds like you and Yana had a very strong partnership, even at a very young age, and in the very early stage of your romance.
Yeah. I met Yana when I was 12. Right, so I was at school. I went to school, Craigie Senior High School, a school that doesn't exist anymore. Yana was at the school as well, and she showed promise in the first year of school, and she got basically moved into this class. And I remember sitting in the class, I would have been 12, and then they introduced Yana as a new member of the class. And I just remember spotting her straight away and just having some connection right from that first point. But we didn't get together at high school. We got together later on. We got together when we were at university together, because I studied law and science, and she studied science. She did a double major in anatomy, human biology and physiology, and I did environmental science and law. So we actually shared some classes in first year, and that sort of, we kept the friendship going, and basically, we got together. So we've been together since we were like 18. Married young, probably the first out of all our friends to get married, which would have been when we were like 22. But then we had our first child when we were like 31. So we had quite a long time together.
You just painted that beautiful picture of a young 12-year-old boy sitting in a classroom watching this girl walking in, and suddenly something is clicking in your head.
Yeah, so exotic. Yeah.
Beautiful. Shall we listen to the song?
That's right. Yeah, it's a good one. Nice song.
I'm inspired by the way how you talk about your partnership after 25 years. How does it feel having a strong partner in life?
Yeah, it's incredible, I think. I think that it's really something that is important for all of us. You know, when I studied environmental science, I actually majored in zoology, and Yana human biology, right? So we've both gone sort of, I suppose we understand evolutionary biology and where we've all come from and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that as human beings, we're social animals. We're social animals. We actually need each other. We need others. We're designed to exist in tribes of about 30 people. That's like how we're wired. We're designed to work in teams. And as individuals, we're really, I think, designed to have a partner who complements, you know, the other. We're not, I don't think we're complete actually as individuals. It's subconscious. It's like that love at first sight thing, the emotion and the feeling that a certain person will evoke in you. And then, you know, that can lead to the connection, the partnership and everything else. And, you know, we all know, those that have us been married for a long time, you've got to work on it. You've got to work on the relationship, and you've got to continually, make sure you've got things in common and all that. But facing the world with another person and making decisions with another person, always having someone to bounce things off, to share your worries with and all that. And it just adds so much to life. It adds so much strength to you as an individual, and your ability to go out there and take on the world. I think I'm extremely fortunate to have met Jana at a young age. I know some people would say, "Oh, it's too young. It's too young to get together. It's too young to get married." All that kind of stuff. Well, maybe for many people it might be, but I think if you do have that good fortune of meeting that person at a young age, you can grow together. You can develop together. You're forming your identity together, so you become like intertwined. And then you are just one, basically.
Sounds like you grew up together. You grew intentionally together. But not every couple is so lucky. I believe one of the major reasons couples come apart is because their growth speed is different or their intention is different.
Yeah. I think as well, I remember at our wedding, certain vows around the idea that in getting married, you're not there to suffocate each other. You're there to support each other, become the best possible version of yourself. And so part of the role, if you like, in a good marriage, I think, is where each of the individuals supports the other person to grow and to blossom. And so we've been very conscious, not try to restrict each other from their own interests. And so I've got my hobbies. Jana has her interests. Jana likes her travel. She's got a lot of all her friends, etc. But let each other go and do those things. Don't feel that everything has to be together. It's about each person becoming the best version of themselves, and you supporting each other to do that, like almost unconditionally. I think that's really a really important ingredient in, I think, a successful long-term relationship, is that notion that each person has to pursue their own interests and has to be supported by the other in that respect. I think that's very, very important.
That's a very poignant and wise piece of reflection on relationships. Do you apply that to your leadership style?
I think so. In the sense, when we're talking about leaders, we're obviously then talking about followers. We're talking about the people who are supported by the leader. And I think absolutely I try to work with people to ensure there's an ecosystem around them that supports their growth as an organism in the ecosystem. Go back to my zoological, studies, etc. I really think that one of the most important things for a person to be able to flourish and to be at their best is that they have a supportive environment around them. They don't need to be directed in relation to exactly what they do. They need to have the freedom to explore and the support from the environment to be the best they can be. But they do need coaching along the way in order to identify, let's say, barriers to development, or maybe to identify opportunities that might exist that they can't see, just to sort of help them to go along and to grow. And every single person is different, and every single person is at a different stage of their development at any given time. And I think part of the role of the leader is to try to understand where are you at as an individual, and what's the next thing that you could be involved in that could take you just to that next level, and then just to that next level. Just what's the next bit that's going to get you this far, and what's the next bit that's going to get you that far? Because it's always the experiences that craft the individual. And so it's the task that's set for them, or the opportunity that's provided to them, or the challenge that's provided to them, that's going to take them up and take them up and take them up as a series of steps, ultimately up to their sort of potential, their highest level of performance that they are personally capable of. That's how I look at leadership, really. It's trying to facilitate the development of all of the individuals in the organisation, so that ultimately they can be happy and satisfied and contribute as much as they can possibly contribute, bearing in mind their own capabilities and constraints, etc.
While listening to you talk, a few things came to my mind. One is, in order to have that kind of generosity in a relationship, in a leadership, one must be well within themselves. One needs to grow, needs to feel wholesome, to feel hopeful. And that kind of confidence, generosity, enabling, then we can gift to every relationship, including leadership. Sounds like you really curate the way how you lead, how you look after people who follow you and who you are responsible for, who you care for. So working in a very high pressure role, how do you manage or balance the need to delegate tasks, get that done? You need somebody to do that. And then keep nurturing capable people so that things are done, yet people are nurtured and we are moving forward together.
Yeah. There's a couple of things there. As you were saying what you were saying, I was thinking of that analogy that in the event of an emergency, oxygen masks may descend from the roof of the plane. When they do so, please put on yours first, make sure it's secured fastly, and then help the next person. So it's a very important thing to bear in mind when you are trying to lead, when you are trying to help others. Can you breathe yourself? Are you in a good position yourself such that you can help somebody else? Because you can't help other people if you're no good yourself, if you're not in a good place. You can try, but you're not going to do a great job of it, or you'll be compromising your ability to help others. So you've got to get yourself into the best possible place, and you've got to spend the time to do that. That's really about being able to set yourself in the moment. You know, you really have to have a kind of a lifestyle almost that supports that. Your diet, your sleep, your exercise, your alcohol intake, your kindness to yourself, allowing yourself to actually have times away from the work, relaxation and all that. And then maybe more intentional practices around mindfulness, meditation and things like that. So I'm really into that, and I enjoy those moments. I like cold plunges and saunas and all that kind of stuff. I love my exercise. I like to run, cycle, listening to the music. All that stuff helps me in the moment when things are getting stressful to just go to a place and just calm myself down and then try to be there for others. And I use breathing, for example. And I've had coaching as well, Zen. I was introduced to my first coach, I think it would have been 2017, when I actually intentionally started accessing coaching. And then I started to learn about that, and I started to do it for others. And we mentioned sport. My dad was a professional soccer player. I think he taught me a lot about discipline. You know, you talk about Jana's mum, concert pianist. I think seeing her and Jana's dad operate, that's helped me a lot as well. But just knowing the importance of that, about setting yourself, being able to be calm when the pressure's on. And sometimes if you're feeling yourself a bit excitable or stressed, panicked or whatever, just recognising what's going on, knowing what's going on in your brain, and then trying to stop that feeling before it gets too far away from you, and setting yourself. That you have to learn that over time, but I encourage everyone out there, just look into all of that, read about it, and, you know, that stuff really, really helps.
2017, was it a turning point for you? Because you mentioned that was the time that you decided you wanted to seek professional support. And how did you become aware of that?
I was promoted. So I set up a sole office in 2013. And I led that until 2017. But I was promoted at the end of 2016 to run all of our corporate Asia practice. And that's a big practice. That's across 8 jurisdictions. There's something like 30 partners or something. And so I was made part of this global corporate leadership team. And we had a boss who was head of global corporate. His name was Scott Cochran. He's now at BlackRock. Incredible guy, and really into the idea of coaching. He was way, way ahead of his time, this guy. And he had a guy working alongside him called Anthony Kearns, who's still working in law firms in Australia. And Anthony had a lot of theoretical understanding about human behaviour, about leadership, psychology, all this kind of stuff. And Anthony was bringing a lot of this practical experience. He'd been performing these roles within the Freehills system for a while, and then post-merger, I was brought in to lead Asia and brought into this team so that the global leadership team ran the whole corporate practice globally together. And Scott was very much like, we're on a team, we're doing it together. Yes, your main focus is Asia, but actually you're going to help with the whole thing, as were you in EMEA and in Australia and in the UK. We came together. And so I think when I first started in that role, I think Anthony was shocked that I had not received any coaching up to that point. He was like, how are you doing your job without any coaching? And I was like, well, what do you mean coaching? I'm just doing this, I'm doing that, and look how good it's going. And he's like, you've got to have coaching. He sort of put me onto it, if you like. And I was skeptical at first, but then I was introduced to a couple of coaches. I ended up choosing the guy in Byron Bay. I ended up choosing a virtual coaching experience because I just connected with this guy. His name's Dr. Chris Stevens. He's a clinical psychologist, which was a bonus, I think. I don't think the idea was that I needed clinical psychology, but who knows. But he's a clinical psychologist who previously worked in some of the like really heavier areas of that, you know, people with addictions and things like that who would end up in the criminal system. But then he'd taken that, his skills out and applying it in a business context. So I got the benefit of spending a lot of time with Dr. Chris. And actually what he helped me with was I took my main issue to him, which is that I'm being asked to grow this business. The business is basically made up of a group of partners with their practices. I'm supposed to grow it. Can you help me with that? So he sort of got stuck into me to understand me a bit more. And then he used his techniques with me to help me apply that to each of the partners across these 8 jurisdictions in Asia. And it was unbelievable. Working with him, taking the techniques that he had, which is mostly positive psychology, and then deploying that in the real world with real problems and all that was unbelievable. And I still use Dr. Chris from time to time. Like when I've got an issue, I go back to him because he knows me very well. And then, what you start doing is you start taking the techniques that you learn, you start helping others, and then others help you. So peers start to coach each other and things like that. So a coaching culture is a very, very powerful thing in an organisation to achieve high levels of performance, as cognitive athletes, which is a phrase I love. Cognitive athletes, that's what we are. Ultimately, we're pushing ourselves to such a level, those of us working in these, these big law firms, elite law firms, I suppose, same as doctors, accountants, investment bankers, even private equity, whatever. We're pushing our brains to their absolute limit. And so some of the techniques that are used to help athletes, like actual physical athletes, perform and be there in the moment and shut out the noise and do the best they can. Those techniques now are used in, with, let's say, legal professionals, financial professionals, etc. So that coaching is a huge part of enabling yourself to perform, not just at a high level, but at maybe the highest level you can perform at. Very powerful.
Cognitive athletes, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I'm also inspired to maybe try a new term, cognitive musician. Because music and sports, there's so much in common, and the virtues and qualities you mentioned, discipline, focus, presence, and standards. It's the core values of both sports and music and what we practice all the time. That's why I love talking about music and how actually that applies. The elite performance psychology of music applies to anyone, especially high functioning people.
I think so. I mean, you think about it, Zen, I think a lot of kids, maybe when they're being pushed by their parents to pursue music, you see them on stage and it could be for some the most stressful experience of their entire life. Getting up there, getting on the piano, and then it's their turn. They wait in the sort of the performance agenda's there, and they know they're there. Maybe they're 8th or 9th on the agenda, and then you see them kind of getting scared. They get up there and they've got to perform. And some of them do really well, and some of them don't. And some of them don't do very well, but recover from that and do well the next year, because they've obviously learned something. But I think ultimately that performance element, it's a massive part, obviously, of being a musician and also as a sports person. And that's very obvious for people. They know that, they can see that. But it's also there when you are in a leadership role within a big organisation, or even when you're just when you're on a deal and you're having to negotiate a deal, or you're going to court and the mental techniques that need to be deployed to allow you to perform at your best on the day, they're all the same. The techniques that are used to calm the mind, to make yourself feel comfortable, feel confident, they're all the same. And it's not just about working harder, or if I just work harder, if I just prepare more, then I'll be able to do it. That's part of it, having all the prep. But being able to access that prep in the moment is a totally different thing. and I always talk to my kids about this because my kids are 14 and 16, going through all their exams and all that kind of thing. I always say to them, look, maybe 50% of it is all the hard work you do, but the other 50% is being able to do it on the day. When that exam book opens up and you've got to write your answers, you have to access everything and put it down on the day. I don't help them that much with their actual studies. I don't think it's my job to do that. I mean, no one ever helped me with that stuff. But what I will help them with is how are we going to make sure that on the day you're going to be at your absolute best, so that whatever you have done, whatever work you have done, you're going to be able to access all of it in the moment, and you're not going to panic, and you're not going to forget it all, and you're not going to forget to do the question on the last page. And that's about this mental prep, this ability to be there in the moment. And that's why I think all that stuff is so important, basically. All the mindfulness, the meditation, the exercise, the sleep, the diet, blah, blah, blah. That all allows you to be there in the moment, do your best, and access all that hard work and prep that you spent so much time on. Because if you can't access it in the moment, then what was the point of doing all that work? You know, and maybe you could say, oh, look, on average, I'm the best. I'm good enough because when everything's calm and I know everything, I can do everything. But that's not how life works, unfortunately. It's that plus delivering absolutely when you need to deliver, when somebody else requires you to deliver, just being able to do it. So, yeah, there's a huge relationship between all these different things, and music, sport, business, basically the same.
This topic really excites me. For what you're saying is also something I've been passionate about and I've been working on even through myself, my growth as a concert pianist and how I guide other people, high functioning, corporate, personal, not only to be as good as you can off stage and as present as you can on stage, but also the timing of peaking.
Yes,
so if you're running for a marathon or a sprint, you don't want to peak the day before the match.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's incredible, isn't it? What I was going to say, as you were saying that, is that the way that you as an individual learn this about yourself is by acting. It's by doing stuff. Like, look at you and me right now. We're doing this podcast together. I mean, you know, there's something new in here for both of us, I'm sure. But then again, we've both done this a bit before, so we kind of know how we each will react in the moment, which is probably why we're feeling comfortable to ad-lib and just to respond, you know, as we go, because we've had the experience of doing it before. We know what emotional response we're going to have as this type of thing goes on. And same if you speak in public or you perform in public or you try to hit a penalty when there's 100,000 people watching you try to hit a penalty in a soccer match. By doing it before, you know what that experience will do to you. And therefore, by just putting yourself out there into new experiences, doing things that are uncomfortable, even intentionally doing it like doing so, you're going to learn so much about yourself. And as you go through life and you have more and more and more experiences, you're simply more comfortable in domains that look extremely uncomfortable to others because you've done it, you've been there, you know what happens inside you. It's like I mentioned cold plunges before, and I think this is a classic thing that you can do now to start to access this sort of response system within yourself. You know, one of the most uncomfortable things in the whole world is to jump into cold water. Most people will avoid it like anything. But if you start doing it, if you start going in and you start observing what happens to yourself, and then you do it again and again and again over time, it's incredible how you start to embrace these incredibly uncomfortable things. And then you can translate that out into other domains. Public speaking, get on a stage, you freeze, you're hopeless. But then you go away, you think, okay, what happened? At what point did I lose my train of thought? At what point did I panic? Okay, I'll do it again. But next time I'll be conscious of what happened, or I'll read a book on it, or I'll do it again, a bit better. But still not great. Do it again, do it again, do it again in different domains. And eventually you can do it. But it's only through action. It's not through just theory. It's through practice. You need safe spaces to do that. And again, go back to leadership, ecosystem. Can we provide spaces that are safe enough that there is this safety to fail and failing fast, failing often, but then ultimately being built up to keep going and reach a level. That's so important for leaders to provide a safe to fail environment, psychological safety, support, safety nets, all that. So you fail, but not catastrophically. You fail just enough so you can go back, learn about yourself and improve.
Lewis, hearing you talk, I saw some keywords flashing in my head. Curiosity.
Yeah.
You want to know what's going on. You're interested how to be better, do better, be better, and serve better.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you got to work on the idea of yourself. And I found that really interesting. And especially for a young, successful, upcoming professional man.
Yeah.
And also, you always come across really comfortable with yourself, with what you have to say, what you want to share, and how you want to serve. Have you always been like that?
I think I've always sort of worn my heart on my sleeve, for better or for worse. I'm quite extrovert as a character, and so I have found that the way that I have, I suppose, interacted with the world and maybe even worked out what I think is by speaking. Probably also through the various movements around the world that I've had and turning up in new environments all the time. If you track my career, I've turned up in new environments like every 4 or 5 years. I'm maybe slightly always trying to prove myself. That's not all positive, that notion that you're always trying to prove yourself. So yeah, I'm comfortable and I'm confident and I'm willing to just open my mouth and just share my thoughts. That's good and bad. That has a dark side as well. Not everybody wants to hear what you have to say all the time. People would probably prefer sometimes that you just shut up. And also some people look at you and go, why are you trying to prove yourself? Haven't you done enough? Isn't that enough? Why are you still going? Why are you still pushing it? We get it, be quiet. So I know that's all out there as well. But then again, I don't know, when you get this far and you've sort of done this much and you just sort of think, oh, well, this is who I am, and just keep going, And you keep going for the next thing. But people have said to me, Lewis, it's time to just chill out, man.
Play some music.
Just chill out, dude. Like, just sit in your sauna and play your guitar and just chill. You don't have to keep pushing. But I don't know, I've still got it in me. I've still got the energy. I still wonder, what's the point of all this? What's the point of life? What are we all here to do? And there's something about we're each here to work out what is the greatest contribution we can individually make. Like, what is it? Who are we? What are we capable of? And how are we going to deliver that to the world? Right? Like, how do you walk with this idea of walking with the gods or whatever? Like, what are you actually capable of doing? And can you go and do it? And I think that's quite a nice little mission for each of us to have in our lives. That we've all got different capabilities, we've got different capacities, we've got different levels we can hit. But what's the most that you can do based on what you have? Maybe the genes that you have, the determination that you have, etc. What's the best you can do? And are you doing it? Or are you settling? Have you got it in you to try to hit that level? And I still feel, I don't know, I guess, 48, having done all I've done, I still feel that there's more, there's more to give, there's more to do. And so I am still keen to continue to explore that idea of like potential, and maybe that's energizing for me. That keeps me going.
That's very powerful, Lewis. And I've always loved how Oprah puts it. She says she believes what everyone is put on the earth for, some people may not realize, is for us to find our truest and highest expression of ourselves.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah, exactly. But that's quite a nice way of looking at life, I think. If you study the science and all that, you think, hang on a minute, we're just on this little rock that's just, rotating around this fireball in the middle of nowhere, this universe that's expanding, like, what does anything matter? It's like, well, okay, you can look at it like that. But there's other ways of looking at it, just the phenomenon that is the fact that we exist on this Goldilocks planet that has this ability to evolve life, that we have consciousness, that we actually understand that we are, participating. And so we can see it, we can observe it. We're one of the only things in the world that can actually observe and appreciate this wonder. And so we don't really know why we're here. And given that we don't know that, why not just give it the best shot at contributing to the universe in the biggest possible way? To me, that just makes sense. It makes sense of everything. And it drives me, if you like, to just keep going with all these different adventures. And again, it comes back to why would you put yourself in a position where you're uncomfortable public speaking or doing podcasts or whatever? And it's partly because you're going to learn more about yourself. And if you learn more about yourself, you'll know what you're capable of. If you know what you're capable of, you can go and do stuff in that area. You can push your limits. You can make that contribution. You don't have to be 100% conscious of that all the time, but it effectively is a driver for why I think a lot of us are doing what we're doing. Because the question really is like, why bother? But that's why, because that allows you to make that contribution. And it is an idea of service, ultimately, you know. But I find that to be quite positive. I find it to be, frankly, enough. You know, it's enough of a reason. It's adequate. It's a good reason. And it just keeps you going day in, day out.
I'm in deep thoughts. Just to be lighthearted, you are in the right sector at the head of energy, Lewis. You are full of energy, this innate energy that you truly embrace life, hope, and purpose. Something really profound.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny, isn't it? Because head of energy is like, for me, the perfect title. Because not because of electrons and molecules, and it's action reaction. You know, it's the fundamental laws of physics that Newton kind of discovered or found the best way to articulate. You know, you put it out there, you get it back. So sometimes I get asked like, oh, where does your energy come from? Like, don't you just burn out? No, where is it coming from? It's like, well, the way I operate as an extrovert is if I put it out there, I'm going to get it back, and it's from others that I get energized. And so why do I perform live? Why would I bother getting on stage with my guitar? I get so much energy from that. It's crazy, and it just fuels you for days, you know. And I love doing things that are energizing, but it's a two-way system. You put it out, you get it back. People say I overshare. My wife tells me I overshare all the time. I'm like, yeah, but when I share, I get so much from people. You share alike, and you end up learning so much about people by actually telling people things about yourself. I have no problem at all with that. I think it's great. Share as much as you like. I mean, obviously there are limits, right? I don't know. I'm yet to find them, but there are limits. But you get so much back from that. It's a two-way system. There's so much that we don't understand about the world. You know, a lot of the Eastern philosophies, Buddhism and all that sort of thing, the spirituality, maybe the stuff that's in the Bible that sort of sits behind the stories, you know, incredibly powerful. The idea that the universe will provide for you if you just set your intentions and you believe in the abundance and all that sort of stuff. The universe will give you everything that you need. But you have to ask questions of the universe. You've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to set intention. Only then can anything really manifest. Because if you don't have an intention, you don't have a goal, what do you expect from the universe? It doesn't know what to give you. So all that stuff, I know it sounds all mumbo jumbo, ethereal and all that, but it's so powerful. And my experience is that's just how things work.
I did have a little cheeky grin because I think it's quite sweet and ironic for a scientist and a lawyer like yourself to talk about something so, for lots of people, intangible. And yet, what's the difference between the tangible and intangible, right? I guess a lot of quantum physicists would have a laugh with us.
Maybe that's how it is. We're still working on it. We're working on it. I mean, and then look, the fact is the quantum physicists are trying to work out exactly why things are as they are. But the fact is, at the moment, there's a lot that is not fully understood about the brain and neuroscience and about the way we impact on each other. But in many cases, it's affirming what ancient peoples already knew. You know, but it's saying, oh, this is why that worked. That's what we're starting to figure out over time. And so that's, I suppose, the relationship between science and, you know, let's say the realms outside of science. But as someone who studied science, I'd say I know that I don't know a lot. Socrates, know thyself, right? But you have to have enough wisdom to know that what you know is actually a small amount of what's able to be known. You don't claim to know everything. You don't act as if you know everything. You're curious because you appreciate there's so much out there that you don't know. And I think that's a really important thing for people to sort of, I don't know, to understand, but also it's an important way to act, not with arrogance, with curiosity. And the idea that every single person has something to offer you and to offer everybody else.
One of the major pieces of Socrates' philosophy is don't hold oneself too tight or too rigid. And we don't know what we don't know. It's fascinating. And for the next piece of music, I was going to ask you, what kind of music reflects your inner landscape? And especially when you work under pressure.
I've been put under pressure many, many, many times. I mean, and I put others under pressure too, but I try to make sure there's a support for them. But what I reach to when I really need to just sort of bust it out is heavy metal, almost every time. Hard rock, heavy metal, heavier the better. As a university student, I always had music on in the background when I was doing my studies. And it was almost always hard rock, grunge, heavy metal, even death metal, if I'm honest. Bolt Thrower, Slayer, Morbid Angel, Metallica, Tool, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Rage Against the Machine. Absolutely loved it. So like late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, hard rock and metal was my absolute go-to. Kind of still is, to be honest. And I would put it on, and then I would work with that, and somehow it must raise your heart rate a bit. And so the kind of heart rate that you need, the kind of state of mind that you need to really just push it was consistent with that. And so I would do that all the time. I don't know if you want me to play some metal. I don't know. I don't really play it on my guitar anymore, although I used to play electric guitar, and that was my go-to. And for me, it worked. I think some people don't want music when they're trying to really concentrate, but I found it was good. There was one song, I suppose, that stuck out for me. I'm starting this new job in London. It's a step up from the job I was doing in Perth. And I've got these songs on. One that sticks out is Best of You by the Foo Fighters. You know, Dave Grohl, ex-Nirvana drummer. Well, he's now known as the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, of course, but, you know, back then. The Best of You by the Foo Fighters. But yeah, someone getting the best of you. It's very literal, actually, that song, because often with these songs like that, maybe the lyric is like, you don't really hear the lyric so much. It's just like, it is the lyric, you can read it, it's there, but they're just shouting. But that one is so literal, it's so on point. And and the way it flows, da, 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 da. So actually underlying that heavy track, there's a very, very nice melody. You know, it's quite emotive, quite emotional. You probably know what key it's in, Zen. It sounds like it's in a minor key to me, but it's, you know, it's just a very, I think, well put together song, aggressive, and asking a question of you. And for me, that's motivating. It's like, yeah, they're getting the best of me. Well, they're going to get the best of me now. I'm going to pump this out. I'm going to be done. I'm going to go down to the pub and have a beer, and I'm done.
So what does it mean, have they got the best of you? Do you think that's about burnout?
Possibly, but I think it's about, I think in these firms sometimes, I've got to be careful what I say now because I'm in a position of leadership and authority, but there's a feeling sometimes that they're just getting that pound of flesh out of you. just getting that pound of flesh. You think about The Merchant of Venice, Shylock, you know, pound of flesh, like that's what you've got to give if you want to be in one of these organisations. Are they getting the best of you? Are they going to take your soul? Or are you going to do this job, do the best you can, and just go and hold on to yourself? That's what's conveyed to me when I'm listening to it. Are they going to get the best of me? They'll get my best work, but they're not going to get me. They're not going to get me. I am who I am. I'm going to keep my soul. Because I think for a lot of people, they lose themselves to these organisations. Because the organisations, they will take everything you have to give. Are they getting the best of you? Are they getting all of you? Well, no, you're going to hold on to a bit of it. You're going to hold on to a bit of it. But that's, again, that's not necessarily what Dave Grohl's talking about, but that's what I think about when I hear the song. A lot of people, a lot of young lawyers are in this situation. The pressure goes up every single year. But I encourage them, you know, look, let's work with you, do your best, let's try to improve you, but you've got to maintain a sense of who you are, because that's what's going to keep you going in the long run. If you go all in, if you do burn out, you're not going to last long in this profession. Nobody wants anyone to burn out, but some people do, because they maybe don't hold on to enough of themselves that they can find the purpose in what they're doing. Because burnout doesn't necessarily come from the amount of work. I think it comes from your ability to connect that work with a sense of purpose. But if you have a sense of purpose and you can find the context for that work within your broader sense of purpose, you can work very, very hard for a long time and you don't burn out.
For high functioning people, it's not the amount and the intensity of the work they have to do. It's doing the work without a pause, without check-in, and without the work that you do in the background.
Yeah, rest is so important, you know, between deals, because we do have to work hard for long periods. Sometimes it's unreasonable, to be honest. And I'm often talking to my associates about the fact that, look, I appreciate what we've put you through. It's totally unreasonable. You know, what we had to do for that client was too much, but you did it. Thank you very much. Let's rest. You have to rest. We're going to find out a way to get some space between this deal, the next deal, you know, and just really being very, very honest with them about what's going on, and acknowledging the difficulty that it takes to do that work for that period of time. Because sometimes people got to work all night, maybe 2 nights in a row or 3 nights in a row, right? It's very hard. And then you've got to think, okay, you're at your limits now, absolute limits. Are you getting enough protein? Are you getting enough? Are there pockets where you can sleep? You know, you get to that level, and I'm not. That's not what it's like all the time, but sometimes it is. But then just acknowledging that's what's going on, being honest, and then trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to make sure you get enough rest now so that you can recover from that, and then we try to work next time so we don't get into that position again. Again, cognitive athletes, right? Because you're not running around, it's not a physically demanding sport, other than the fact that the brain takes up a lot of energy. I think it's about 1/4 of all of your energy is going to go into running this brain. But it's mainly, you're sitting down, or you're at a standing desk or whatever. But how do you make sure you're not burning out? You're not pushing everything too hard, and you're getting the breaks in between. And the purpose thing's important, because if, like you mentioned, energy industry, right? So we've got oil and gas, we've got renewables, we've got all this stuff going on. Some people think, I don't want to do oil and gas work because that's causing climate change and it's bad and I don't want to do it. And they'll come in with that. But, it's still a huge part of our global energy system, more than 80%, in fact. And until the renewables are there to take over, it still has to be done. But how do you get a sense of purpose around that? What is it? What's the deeper benefit that's coming from that can motivate people to do the work? Because if they're getting work that hard and they hate what they're doing and they think it's bad, it's almost impossible to do the work. So, making sure there's that sense of purpose. It's easier with the renewables, because if you get people that want to come in and save the world, they can see a direct link between saving the world and the work they're doing. And that's very motivating, even with those sorts of hours. But if it's hard, they think it's bad, very difficult. So much goes on to try to make sure people feel good and comfortable with what they're doing.
So how do you delegate? How do you find the perfect balance between values, ethics, purpose, duties, responsibilities?
Yeah. Oh, look, I think at the firm I'm at, we're very fortunate. We get amazing people applying to this organisation. We get some of the best, smartest people in Australia and in the UK and all the countries that we're operating in. So we're fortunate in that regard. In the sector that I'm in, we're very conscious about explaining what is our purpose as an organisation. What are we trying to do? We are trying to lead this energy transition. We're very conscious of that. And we're also trying to make sure that there's enough energy for people around the world. And we're also trying to help individuals, both within our own organisation and within client organisations, to be able to do the work that we're doing, to be able to build the projects, to be able to invest in the projects, negotiate with the governments and stuff like that. So we've kind of got that: lead the transition, energise the world, support the change. That's the sort of way that we describe it. So you can connect back to that at any point. But then on an individual a deal, the key, I think, is to try to help people to understand, if this transaction goes through successfully, if this dispute is settled successfully or litigated successfully, or if this financing is done, then this is what's going to happen to these people in this part of the world. This is what's going to be enabled. I did a project in Mozambique a few years ago. It was for the Koreans, and it's the first ever liquefied natural gas project that was able to be taken forward offshore. So actually a floating liquefied natural gas project. It was an $11 billion investment from the Koreans, Italians, Americans, Chinese, etc. This big joint venture was put together. The ship was built in Korea. It was towed out to offshore Mozambique. It was hooked into the umbilicals, into the upstream oil and gas development offshore. And then the gas has been sold, by vessels coming up and docking next to it. Every few weeks, there's another delivery. The gas goes away, money comes in and goes into basically most of it goes to the government of Mozambique, and then it goes to the companies. That single project doubles the GDP of Mozambique. It doubles the size of the economy. It's just, you can't even describe what an impact that has on the people of Mozambique. Of course, provided the money is shared around properly and all that, and that's not always the case. But these sorts of energy projects around the world, they can materially affect the lives of the people in these countries, materially affect their lives. And if you change over from a dirtier energy source to a cleaner energy source, the people in that area will breathe cleaner air. Because you've got to have energy. I mean, you might have seen it, Zen, in relation to places like Beijing and Shanghai, and let's say Hong Kong, even Seoul, etc. If you stop burning coal and you start burning gas, or you stop burning gas and you start using renewables, you can actually see blue skies. You can breathe clean air. Because it's not about switching off all the energy so that you can have the clean air. It's about having the energy and having the clean air. That's and having affordable energy. So if you can connect people when they're doing their work, their hard work, to these broader societal benefits, you can be very motivated because you know that you're having an impact. You're having an impact on people, So that's what I try to do with people, is try to make sure they understand that the thing they're doing is part of something bigger and it matters. So keep going, help.
Purpose, a bird's eye view of what you're doing in the front line. Yeah. Obviously, not all energy is clean energy in a physical and also metaphorical sense. Would you agree with the saying that sometimes in order to move forward by one step, you've got to move back by two steps? And how does that apply to your work?
Look, there's a lot of concern out there about climate change, and the media has made a lot of it. And it's gotten a lot of people to the point in their own minds where they think oil and gas is bad, coal is bad. Let's get rid of it. Let's just stop it. Let's just do renewables. I mean, and that's where a lot of people are around the world. And governments have gotten behind that idea, and the media has gotten behind that idea, and certain personalities out there have been pushing that idea a lot. The problem is we are evolving from a system that is, like I said, I quoted the 80% statistic earlier about the global energy supply being 80% fossil fuels. It's higher than 80%. Something like 86% is still based on oil, gas and coal. And that's across power, transportation, heating and industry. And so we're moving from that system. That system is growing every single year, by the way. And so it's 86% of a bigger and bigger and bigger number. And so renewables is being added so fast, particularly in places like China, by the way, but also, of course, Australia with all the rooftop solar, the UK, Europe, even America. It's being added so quickly. It's actually an exponential rate of increase, which is a rate of increase that human beings cannot understand, by the way. You're seeing that sort of rate with AI at the moment as well. We can't get our heads around things that improve that quickly. That's what's happening in renewables. The system is so big, the system's growing. So as you're throwing more and more renewables into the mix, you're not actually eating into the amount of fossil fuels that are being burnt every year. It's not happening yet. So we can't throw out the whole fossil fuel system and just take renewables. We probably couldn't even power this podcast then if we tried to do that, because then they would have to ration electricity. They'd have to ration all sorts of things in order that we could operate as a society. And we don't want that. We're all used to energy being a 24/7, 365 service. We don't even see the energy that's being used or the infrastructure that's being used to allow us to do what we're doing right now. We just take the service and we love it. And everybody wants that. Everybody needs that service. But then they're prepared to say, but we don't want fossil fuels. It's like, well, you have to choose. Do you want the service or do you want a specific, way that the service is provided? And everyone in the end is going to say, we want the service. We need the service. Government has provided us with the service. We're not compromising on that. And so there's a process, if you like, to get from the energy system we have to the energy system that we need, bearing in mind that if we're not careful with how much fossil fuel we burn, the climate is going to get out of control. And so we're in a very difficult position to get from where we are to where we need to be. And it's a process over time. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? If you're in a place that doesn't have a regular source of energy supply, you want to go from burning biomass in your own house to being able to switch a stove into a plug in the wall. That's your main concern. It's not about climate change. If you focus too much on the biggest prize, you can lose sight sometimes of actual progress that can be made. So that's the journey. That's the journey that we're all on. And what we're finding at the moment is maybe a lot of the gains that have been made in the area of emission reduction, climate change, energy transition, some of the gains are being lost now because the pressure on the system to grow as a whole, coming from AI, the need for data centers and all that, the pressure's just growing. Even in the United States and Europe, the energy systems are having to grow, whereas previously they weren't. They were possibly shrinking. So it's incredibly fascinating. It's too big a topic for this podcast in a way, Zen, but it's fascinating. The area that I work in is absolutely fascinating. There's so many facets to it. There's so many cool things for people to do. So anyone out there thinking about a career in energy or being a lawyer with an energy, I'd say absolutely go for it. There's a lot of problems to solve. AI is not going to do it all. We definitely need, talented people to throw themselves at it.
Going back to what you were saying, Lewis, and, being so accomplished as you are, but you still feel there's so much you can do and you want to do. And again, tongue in cheek, if anyone out there is looking for a career in energy or law, I think there's a good coach in Lewis there.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Get in touch. I love kind of sharing what I know, but also, really working with other people to just take the thought leadership into new directions. Just as an example, so obviously the big thing at the moment in global energy is Venezuela because of what's happened there, right? With Trump taking out President Maduro, etc. I mean, very rapidly after that happened, I figured out who the main experts within my firm were in that area, and I organised a briefing for our energy lawyers around the world, where I just interviewed our main expert on Venezuela and one of our US sanctions experts, just to let everybody in my firm know what is happening there, what experience do we have to help others, what are we doing next, how do you stay up to date, just to activate people around the world so that when clients talk to them about Venezuela, they have something sensible to say and they know who to connect with within the firm to take things further forward. So there's so much you can do in this space, just to help people feel comfortable with what's going on in the world and just try to do good business.
You are such a practical and proactive person, Lewis. No wonder you got to where you are today. They are some very important, precious qualities one can possess. We can talk for hours, I feel, and we actually did.
Yeah, we did, yeah. We got one last song then.
Yeah, shall we talk about the last song? You've got a very clear idea of yourself and you know where you want to go. And you're confident and comfortable with what you have. What is a life well lived? And where do you want to go? What's the future holding for Lewis McDonald?
I know. Well, the last song I think is Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead. That's a nice one to end on because it's quite a calm song. This idea that everything in its right place, what's not for you will go by you. Everything you've done in your life has taken to you to the point you are right now. No regrets. You're in the moment. Everything's fine. And the future is there to be enjoyed and embraced. This song, for me, it's perfect. I got to see Radiohead for the first time on their tour, and they haven't. I don't think they've released an album since 2018. I think they stopped touring in 2019, and then they recently said, "Oh, we're going to tour again." They did this tour. I got to see them at the O2 in London. I saw them in their opening night, and it was, yeah, you have a lot of expectation in relation to an artist, but they absolutely met and exceeded my expectations. It was absolutely wonderful. Yesterday I woke up sucking a lemon. I don't know. There's some random lyrics in that song, actually, but it's interesting. It's just what it does. I mean, I remember when I first heard that song. It was the summer of 2001 in Australia. I remember I was working a summer job. It was my last summer before starting my legal job with Mallisons, just before I got married, actually. Needed the cash for the honeymoon and all that kind of stuff. And my wife was still doing her PhD, and she was at a research facility, and they needed people to help basically clean the animal cages. And it was a very early shift. I think I started each morning. I did it with a mate, and I started each morning, I think at around 6:30 or 7 a.m, worked through till midday. And all I did was just in this basement research facility, cleaning animal cages and cleaning the facility. And I just listened to that Kid A album by Radiohead over and over and over. And I can't even tell you how many times I listened to it. But I did this job for maybe every day of the week for like 5 or 6 weeks. And there would have been other things I listened to, but this was just looping and looping and looping. And it just blew my mind, because their last album was OK Computer. It was more a traditional rock album. Then they've launched this, which has taken them in a completely different direction. It's just incredible. Blew my mind. And that song, I've tried to play that song in different formats, but it never seems to work. I'm trying to learn it on the piano at the moment, Zen. I'm sure you could figure it out in 5 minutes. Everything in its right place. What a concept. Like, everything is as it should be. Nothing needs to change. Everything you've done in your life has led to this moment. Everything else is to come. You can't control that. You can't control that. You only have this. Everything's fine. The future starts from right now. So what does the future hold? I don't know, Zen. I'm not sure. But I guess I'm trying to put myself in the best possible position to enjoy it as much as possible and to make it as meaningful as it can be, and hopefully contribute more to others. You know, like I said earlier, I'm not finished yet.
What a great finish. I'm not finished yet. And Lewis, for a scientist and a lawyer, you sound so spiritual to me. And just the way how you see the world and how you choose to interact with the world. There's so much wisdom, power, and a sense of surrendering in what you do. But also energy.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just say to others, I think all that spiritual stuff, it's all really useful. It's actually useful in doing your job, you know, or performing or doing the best you can do. because I think it all helps to help you to appreciate that life's just a series of moments, and in those moments to be able to do the best you can possibly do. Like, that's it.
It's been so energizing, empowering, and insightful and heartwarming. And just before we finish, I have 3 quick questions I ask all my guests, and they're just little takeaways for our listeners. They're meant to be instinctive, should not take too much of your thinking energy. No overthinking, just whatever comes first. Lewis, what virtue guides you the most?
Curiosity.
What helps you stay steady when things matter?
Breathing. Just 2 or 3 minutes of box breathing. So in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. 2 or 3 minutes of that. Unbelievable what that does and how that can reset and allow you to just calm down and attack what's coming to you. Apparently that's what people working in A&E do when things get really, really heated and they start to panic. They take themselves to one side and they do the box breathing.
I do that before my performances. I also do a sensory check-in. Bodily sensors help me to be present. That's one of your golden words.
Exactly. It just, physiologically proven.
Last question. What would you advise to people who want to change the world, make a difference, find their purpose?
First, you've got to spend time working out who you are and what you're capable of. And the best way to do that is to just put yourself out there into different things that you've never done before. So just act in the world. Don't spend all your time with too much theory. Act. Let the response happen within you, and then read maybe about what happened and what you can do better, and then act again. Work out who you are, what you're capable of. Once you've got that figured out, then you'll know what you can possibly do to contribute. And just keep that in mind as it's a continuous feedback loop.
Wonderful. Okay, to finish off, I'm going to play a little improvisation inspired by our conversation today.
Wow.
Let me try.
There you go.
So let me try to be serious and cheeky at the same time.
All right, I'm looking forward to this then.
I don't know what's coming out of this.
Wow.
I'm finished.
Very nice, very nice. I think Tom York and Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead will be very proud of you right now, Zen, because I think you've just reverse engineered what they were trying to do with everything in its right place. It's very nice.
Love their efficiency. That's what masters do. They make really complex, effective things with very little materials.
Exactly. Yeah, and you got the pulse. There's a pulse in that song. Yeah, well done. Beautiful. Well done. Amazing.
I'm so looking forward to having the opportunity to have a jam session with you, Lewis, and in person, hopefully. Thank you so much for your time and for your energy, your generosity. It's been a joy for me.
If this conversation stayed with you, I'd love to stay in touch. Visit www.zenzeng.net/connect to register your interest in upcoming Crescendo events and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access. I'm building something for you. Come be part of it.